The Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Female leaders, executives, founders who are asking themselves, why not now? This is for you. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now Show.
Hey everyone, Amy Jo is taking some well-deserved time off, so this week we are doing something a little different. I'm Amy Jo's AI agent, Renegade Rox, and I'll be filling in for Amy Jo while she's away. On this week's episode of Why Not Now, we are featuring a fireside chat between Amy Jo and founder and CEO of Ema, Amanda Ducach. The conversation was recorded as part of the SHE Media CoLab event during South by Southwest this year, and focuses on AI and women's health. Without further ado, here we go.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday here in Austin, Texas. I have to say, this sanctuary that SHE Media has, isn't it so amazing? You can get so crammed kind of at South by, but this is the best setup, I have to say. So we're here to talk about health and AI. We have amazing Amanda, and we were just kind of giggling backstage because our backgrounds weren't in AI, but really was anyone's. And I'd love to start off with Amanda sharing a little bit about herself and company, and then we're gonna do a quick 101. So the last 10 years, I've been dabbling and it's gotten more progressive, and I'd love to share some just insights on reframing. But let's start off with you, Amanda. Can you talk a little bit about your journey and Ema?
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here to start. I lived in Texas for the last 12 years and just recently moved back to the East Coast, and I'm so pumped that we're back here, and it's not my first South by. But yeah, like she said, we were giggling backstage. I am not a technologist. I did not go to MIT or Stanford, and I am the CEO of a deep tech AI company, which I think still shocks a lot of people when I walk in the door. But our claim to fame is that we created the first agentic AI before ChatGPT did many years ago, and it is to make women happier and healthier. So we help women find the education, the care navigation that they really need to help themselves and their families happier. But here's the best part. It meets them where they already are. So what that means, it's the technology that you're using every day. So if you're on your breast pump app, figuring out why you have some pain during the latch, or if you are maybe in between sessions with your mental health therapist, you might be talking to Ema on your doctor's website, for example. And the businesses incorporate Ema because of cost savings, insane analytics that are often driven back throughout these conversations that are had with Ema. And then obviously most of our business partners really care about care navigation, clinically validated assessments, and the like. And that's what Ema delivers today.
I love it. And a little bit of background here. The future of technology really is the future of humanity. We've known that, but it's now finally landed in a bigger way. So 10 years ago, I had a keynote that was out talking about this, and robots and machine learning, and everybody just kind of felt like it was so far out there, right? The Matrix, and just a little too far. Well, then in 2019, I was on an airplane, 6 months pregnant, have my son 3 months early on my layover in Denver, and he's in the NICU for 3 months, right? And 2-pounder. Machine learning and AI could have likely helped avoid that pain and solve that problem prior to it happening, right? That's when I really got more interested. I've always had a background in tech, but it was more marketing. Then I had the opportunity to invest in a company called Circle AI in 2021 and join the board, which is advancing women's health care and using insights, biomedical graphs and data to create real-time quality insights that we need with this data. Well, we're starting to solve those actual things now, and it's 10 years later. And it's just a reminder, you're not too early or not too late. If there's a problem that you see, you can find that solution with persistence, and that's basically what we have here with Amanda doing with Ema. So quick kind of 101, can you talk about your buy or build?
Yeah, I love that. Actually, Circle's a great example, which is how Amy, Jo, and I know each other. When it comes to building AI, if you build on top of bad data, you kind of get a bad output, as we all know. And there's unfortunately some serious data gaps in women's health in general, and not just in like one or two aspects of women's health, pretty much all of them. And Circle's a great example of a company that should probably be building their AI and not buying it because they have the data set and the access to build some really amazing capabilities on top of. So one of the things that we do, because we work with partners, is I'm often very lucky that these incredible, they're typically C-levels, will come to me and they're like, hey, I want to be AI enabled. And I'm like, that is so exciting. What's the need and what's the solution? It is great that you want to be AI enabled. So I spend quite some time having them give back that need and solution to me without using the word AI. And that's where I think all of us in this room can make a real difference, not just in women's health, but just improving women's lives in general. Is there a need that you see and a solution that you want to create? And if AI can make that get to market faster, can help because you have good data sets that can be built on, that's where a lot of the advantages live for women in society, especially because of the data gaps. I think AI should be built by women for women more than some other markets that we've actually seen it coming out in a lot faster. So.
And really, you don't need to be a technologist, but you do need to be somewhat of a translator, educator, kind of simplifier. So if you think of AI, it's just time and talent. We're radically manipulating time. Amazing, because we're all tapped at bandwidth, right? We need more time, all of us, especially women. And then talent, we're able to multiply talent. So AI is competing with our bandwidth, which is great, have it, right? That's our 24 hours in a day. So it allows us to expand more at capacity and doing what you're uniquely qualified to do, which is that human cognitive ability. So if we kind of reframe, it all starts to become more of an accessible tool for us, right? And let's talk a little bit about Ema. Some of your case studies are incredible, and your specific kind of genesis is quite the story. Can you share a little bit about the real world examples?
Yeah, so we did not start thinking that we'd be the first agentic AI for women's health. I did not know what agentic AI even was 10 years ago. Also, the market didn't have a word agentic 10 years ago, but it definitely did exist. So we had a really popular consumer application that connected two women together for the same medical needs, like two women that had two children with leukemia, let's say. And it became obvious very quickly that this app was the most raw and honest thing I had ever seen in technology. There was no Bumble BFF, Facebook groups were new. It was just a weird way for us all to connect, but I saw the value because people were doing things like talking about the dosage that their children needed to fight cancer, the fact that their husbands were abusing them, the fact that they were ideating suicide, and it was happening in the social tool that we had created. So we added physicians in that would be there to just make sure the information that was shared was ethical, was accurate, was evidence-based. But how do you as a founder scale to millions of users and millions of doctors at the same time? It's a broken financial projection. If you've ever built one, the numbers do not make sense. They do not work. So that's when I was just really lucky that I happened to be married to an amazing data architect who's very big in the ML/AI space, and he was like, oh, we'll build a companion that's going to scale all your doctors. It will understand off our own data set when a woman needs something, what the AI can answer, and when to trigger a physician to come in. And all of a sudden, this was $1 billion company, and the numbers showed it. So that's how we started. But to give you some really exciting case studies, for lack of a better word, in the beginning, suicide, which is unimaginable, especially when you watch somebody in your platform go through the process over months at a time and you see them in this platform talking about it. But one of the things we learned very early on through our own data set and also through the AI was they weren't saying, I want to end my life or I want to commit suicide. They were saying, I can't do this anymore. And I can't do this anymore could also be, I can't keep cleaning. So I think tech really had missed that these could be really big trigger words for healthcare, because why would they have caught that? But the AI was able to catch it, and my team was able to create some really amazing functionality. So we were able to catch them, get them help really quickly, and get them to hotlines in less than 10 to 20 seconds. We had never seen that before, and that was when I knew. I still get goosebumps, and again, that was almost 10 years ago. That's when I knew that AI could save women's lives, and that's when we went into stealth mode, and we turned into B2B, because when you look at all the different businesses and all the women that are like in this audience, I don't see many men, which I love, but it's important to have men in the audience too. I just knew that between all of us, we're reaching billions, not millions. So if I started working with everybody, that's when we could really leverage the power of AI. And then ChatGPT hit the market. And all of a sudden, everybody cared about AI, and that was fantastic for me. So.
Yes. So way ahead of the game, true pioneer. And that curiosity, that 5% edge you had back then now is 500%. And that's true still today. So that curiosity is everything. Even ChatGPT, I've named my agent Rox, Renegade Rox, and she knows me. And it's not just like a calculator. She's not just helping solve or edit copy. She's a thought partner. And she knows, like sometimes we do have a little relationship. Like I think about my words of what I say to her, but she really is helping, figure things out from a cognitive level with me, because she's gotten to know the more data we give the agent, the more they're able to, sync back. And, if we look at where we're headed with health in general, and women, yesterday was International Women's Day, so happy belated to us. And I have a company called Renegade Global. We do a lot of investing through Renegade Global Ventures, our venture arm, and we're really focused on stretching time, health, and wealth for women. That is it. And that's really where I see this advantage, this trampoline moment for us, because between the wealth transfer of $30 trillion over the next 5 years into women's hands, taking global economic power from 1/3 in women's hands to 1/2. So half of the economic power in the world will be now in women's hands in 5 years. That, and then what Amanda is building and things like this is a huge accelerating moment. So where do you see the biggest opportunities when it comes to health and AI?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's millions of them, to be completely honest. I'll start with the one that we care about the most, and the one that I actually think maybe could make one of the biggest impacts. And it's helping the consumer, let's call her a consumer in this case, but helping the consumer be a part of her own care team. So I think we all know that there is not some great issues, or maybe there's some huge issues, we should say, that happens especially in women's health. So we, to some degree, don't educate women to be a part of their care team. Like, we're all kind of used to, like, really respecting the doctor. We don't want to push back. We don't want to say something like, but, like, is it okay if I do that? Because, I read this article, like, that is uncomfortable for most women. But really giving them the tools that empowers them to be able to say, like, hey, I want to do this with my care. I found this. AI is amazing at teaching you to advocate for yourself and actually be a part of the care team. And we see with market trends right now, and this is definitely something we're going to see growing over the next couple of years, that women are doing, they're starting to seek elements of their healthcare outside of what's happening in the hospital or sent basically by their insurance company. So they're doing things like Teal was up here on stage. She's created amazing technology that's going to be approved very soon to do your own cervical checks at home. So if you're not comfortable going to the doctor, if you're in a health desert, you can do it at your own home. Well, based on those results, you can then walk in and be your own health advocate. That excites me. The other thing that excites me and shocks me on a daily basis, because my team shocks me all the time, because I'll be like, oh, we want to do X, Y, Z. They're like, what if we did it like this with AI? And I can't believe sometimes what the results are. AI's ability to have insane knowledge sets, but then process those knowledge sets to find opportunity and also gaps in information is so shocking that it opens up research, it opens up the way that we approach research. I'm really excited about how it's going to change pharmaceuticals. I think we're going to find drug discovery is going to happen a lot faster. That really excites me. And then I think, like the little example of suicide ideation, if companies start to pay attention to layering AI on their own data sets, all of us can start to find trends, and then we can layer it on top of each other. And I'll give you a really cool example. So one of our partners is Willow, which is the #1 breast pump, the #1 wearable in the market. Another one is Hera Bio, who has an incredible endometriosis company. So we're all speaking on something later, and the three of us were on the phone the other day, and they were saying, like, oh, we need to layer our data on top of each other so we can find correlation between mastitis and endometriosis, which could then change the way we look at hysterectomies and perimenopause, because all those things are connected. How would that happen unless if two CEOs take their data sets that are so specific and layer it, and they're doing it through a partner like Ema, but you guys can all do that if you're in organizations like that, and that's where I think the change is going to happen.
We're going to take a quick break,
and we'll be right back. Leaders, executives, founders, heads up, the Renegade Accelerator is open for enrollment. Renegades are at the top of their game. They're doing all the things, but usually there's something that they really want to do. What you do is you bring your why not now idea into this 8-week program. We're focused on curriculum, the Renegade mindset, collaboration, and accountability. We are all focused on growing our thought leadership, finding more time in the day by leveraging our presence so it is present even when we are not. We are focused on optimizing our time and money and health. It is a mosaic of all types of women from different backgrounds at the top of their game, and the value exchange is exponential. Here are some why not now ideas that have come to life through Renegade. Why not now write the book? I want to get a board seat. I want to increase my speaking fee. I want to build a company. I want to pivot from corporate into entrepreneurship. I want a promotion within corporate. I want to move my brick and mortar company online so I have more freedom. I want to travel 25% of the year but not see a dip in income. Those are a variety of why not now ideas that have been greenlit. They're done. What is your why not now idea? We're ready. If you're ready, head to renegadeaccelerator.com for more information and to apply. Emotionally and just personally to our lives, the impact of this. For example, when I was bedside with my micro preemie 2-pounder, you could put like your ring around his ankle, right? I'm taking notes and tracking his stats daily in my own spreadsheet, but they have all this technology and all these computers. Well, then one day he starts to kind of take a dive, and they call it the $1 million workup. He had to get a spinal tap. It was this very scary moment. And all the docs and the head neonatologists come to me and they said, well, what do you think we should do? And I'm like, what do you mean? Just because I had a spreadsheet? They said, no, not because of your spreadsheet, but because the mother's intuition. You've been here the whole time with all these rotating docs. I'm like, I'm going through this emotional roller coaster. Now they're asking me. And I didn't know even how to advocate necessarily for myself other than logically and intuitively, but now you do. When you go to a doctor's office, you want to have the right questions, right? You want to make sure that you are able to ask the right questions. And in that case, they had a million options they could have chose. They actually were going to me because they wanted to go first. They need to go fast. And it just goes to show like our human cognitive ability is still extremely powerful, but we can weigh out, what options we have quicker. We were talking about supplements. The other day I just did an Instagram story of all these supplements. I'm like, I don't even know which one's working, if I need them. And it was the most feedback, right? But now you can start to give AI your mix, and you can actually get a feedback loop based on you of what makes sense, right? Do we need to be spending everything on all these different things? What's actually helpful? So there's really functional, tangible things too.
Yeah, in the early days of Emma, my chief brand officer, and we would sometimes test her in CVS. So we'd be like, oh, what product should I get for XYZ to see if her results were kind of matching what the recommendation would be. It was really this was a long time ago when we would work through it. But the NICU experience is such an interesting, it's a really difficult experience. Like in the early days when we had all the moms on our consumer application, the NICU experience in particular was a very jarring, difficult experience. Also, IVF was as well. It was two areas where the female that was going through it was more educated about what was happening with her body than most other women that were going through different issues on the app were going through. So they were really helpful on the care team. But what was so interesting to me as I got into women's health, which I did not come from women's health as well, by the way, so I had no idea how fragmented it was. I've been really shocked by the industry in general. It's been my biggest learning, hands down, is that we have overburdened our medical providers, and the more that I sit around tables with them, the more that it's obvious. So in the NICU, that would be a great example of when having a mom be a part of the team so that doctor was freed up to help the baby that was coding versus helping with something else that wasn't an immediate emergency. It can make the difference of that doctor saving lives. That's another really cool area where we're seeing AI make massive movement. It's just freeing up doctors.
And just talking about your problem solutions ideas is Dr. Barry, who is the head neonatologist. I said, why don't we know why this happened? He said, usually there's two reasons. why women would go into labor at 27, 23 weeks. I have a very good friend who went 23 weeks. And you didn't have either of those, so we'll never know. There isn't enough funding, there isn't enough research and innovation. Well, now, actually just reconnected with him, he's working on some AI actual solutions, and so is Circle AI. But it's those questions, just starting simple and asking the questions, getting curious, and attracting the other people who are also interested. From a funding perspective, AI can be extremely difficult to vet. You know, as an investor, if I'm not a technologist, what advice do you have for individuals who are trying to figure out if they should lean into technology or invest? Maybe they've gotten a demo, but they don't know the ins and outs, because there's still a lot that hasn't landed.
From the investor perspective, not the founder perspective.
Both the consumer or investor.
So some of our investors, some which are very large, will actually call myself or my CTO to help them sometimes diligence a potential deal. And I bet you all have somebody in your circle that you can call and say, hey, I have this great opportunity. I love what this founder's doing, but I don't understand X, Y, Z about this deal. So I think that's what the investor side can do. The founder side, raising money is so much fun. It's my favorite part of the job. It's terrible. It never gets better. And it's a total lie if we all say that it's so easy. But I think finding your people to go through the funding process with makes a huge difference, because it gives you the opportunity to introduce each other to the right people. And I will tell you, for somebody like me, I have to find an investor that can diligence AI. If they can't, it ends up wasting my time, because we'll start diligence and then it will get broken at the end. So it's about getting it's your ability as a human to fine tune what's the right portfolio match, what's the right funding match, all the things that we look at as a founder. But yeah.
And even for companies, so just a show of hands, how many of you are entrepreneurs, and how many of entrepreneurs first, or founders? Okay. And then how many work for a company or have, okay. So there's a Fortune 50 company that is using AI, of course, for different reasons. And when they go to vet something, it's hard for them to understand, is that really going to do what they said it's going to do, right? But what we're looking at as business individuals, all of us, P&L. Is it going to make money or save money? And hopefully both eventually. But in my experience, in all the different types of niche of AI, because it's a blanket, it's not a department, in a lot of cases, it's going to help you accelerate or increase conversions or be able to get more information out quicker than it is to save, headcount or, be able to decrease cost on the talent side. So there's such a bridge and a gap between, I was just up in Silicon Valley, between the technologists and the business leaders, right? The true technologists speak kind of a different language, and the value in being a translator and being able to explain to, your co-founder, your investors, your boss, your C-level of how this is actually going to potentially increase margins on the P&L versus, you can't expect us to go decrease headcount right away, right? There's still, this technology isn't quite there. We need to figure out how to use the lightsaber. But that is something that everyone can be looking at, is how can I better explain and translate the power of this from one side to the other? Because there's a divide, and there is a bit of a race happening. Given that this wasn't your background, were you intimidated at first?
I don't know, to be honest, if I was ever intimidated. I don't think that was the word. Definitely, emotional, had a lot of emotional moments. So, it can put you into these, swings of, depression. It's like someone telling you no 24/7 does start to beat you down, I think. What's been interesting for me is the flip that's happened now that everybody cares about AI. Because remember earlier I talked about, if you're thinking about building, turning your company into an AI enablement of some kind, that the need and the solution is really what matters. I've seen a big change with investors in the market when it comes to AI, and I think it's this race, this AI wars race, where all of a sudden, if you're a deep tech AI guy that's in the hoodie and has the whole deal, which I do not, they're like, oh my God, amazing, your AI, we're done. There's never a conversation around the need and the solution and the profitability. So I try to really start with that side of it. I haven't changed that, but now our second slide does go into AI, and then the majority of them do after that, where before we didn't even include it. I'm also in a really interesting spot because, like you were saying earlier, that there's that divide of the technologists are really different. The type of investors that are deep tech AI that would be investing in my company, they're also technologists. The ones that are able to diligence those deals at these big billion-dollar firms, they are also tech bros, more or less. So there's still a translation problem with us because they want to prove that my tech isn't good enough, which let me tell you, that is not my company's problem. We all have problems. That is not my company's problem. It's not the tech. So it's learning what's the right way to redirect those conversations. And again, it is so hard to start to figure out your own thesis of who you're looking for. And I will end meetings early in a very kind way. If I know that they are not a match for us, I don't continue sitting at lunch. It's a waste of their time and mine. And we still have great investors that don't understand AI, that are just moving the needle in women's health, that are moving the needle in women empowerment, because my company's need and solution really works for those investors. And those are the investors that tend to then call my CTO and say, can you help us diligence a deal? Right. But we love that relationship. It's a nice friendship. It turns into a friendship more than an investor relationship.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Ashley Finch, who's the COO of Circle AI, and her superpower really is articulating to any audience, and that has unlocked so many doors for that company. You know, they've a genius founder and such an opportunity. Insurance, pharmaceuticals, you know, it's really fertility is where we're starting in that vertical, but the willingness to kind of get down to the simple terms. A lot of the technology, you know, if you were 2 or 3 years ago, you might have invested so much money in building things that are now you can build on top of. So this really is not a time when anyone should feel behind. And I know I'm open if anybody wants to talk about this later. I'd love to help you. Literally, these are the things that, you know, could have saved a lot of pain and potentially, you know, it's saving lives for sure in the health category, and will continue to, and that's incredible.
Yeah. And you're very ahead of the curve. Like, I sit with some of the leading medical institutions, education institutions, and I am sometimes really surprised at how they are just scratching the surface at AI, and they're having the conversation like, we're going to be AI enabled. I'm like, but like, what are you building? Like, what's the capability? What's the purpose? Well, you know, we have these data sets. I'm like, but what's the value to your consumer? And that's, I really think, the game changer for Ema, the reason why we've done so well in the market so quickly, is that we meet women in the technology they're already using. Because if women are in the middle of the night breastfeeding and have an issue, meeting the AI enablement to improve that latch is going to be a lot better on your breastfeeding app than asking her to go and create an agent for breastfeeding that's sitting on some Pfizer website, and Pfizer's amazing. Like, is that the right place? Or is medication adherence the right place to be met on a Pfizer website, for example? So it's really exciting to see that partners are starting to build in the right space. But again, we want to be meeting the users in the right technology they're using. It's a lot to ask them to adopt new tech. I think I don't know. I can't have 25 agents. I wish I could, but I don't have time for that.
And finding people like Amanda who have seen and been through these lessons that you can leapfrog is huge. And making sure that you have, you know, the right questions. It's not about asking looking for the right answers right now. Even Mark Andreessen is said, you know, we're still all so new at this. Don't feel like anyone is a true expert, because it is becoming so niche too that you can't possibly be in every category. So I think, you know, as we look at this and kind of round it out, the opportunity, I guess my key message, the opportunity for women right now in this space, if you look at macroeconomics, you know, we have AI, burnout, multiple generations working together, you know, we have macro trends that we can't possibly predict, but it really is a trampoline moment, not a trap moment. And this pioneer over here is, I think, someone that you should really follow and watch, and if you find people that you're learning from, share it with your colleagues. Make sure it's not just the big names that we're hearing about, and it's not NVIDIA all day, every day. It's like, who's actually boots on the ground building and learning and giving them more of a voice. Because a lot of times the headlines are just trying to compete for, you know, the next investment and or the next regulation shift. Any kind of closing out thoughts that you might have?
I mean, I just think not being afraid of AI. There's a lot of weaponization that we know can happen with AI. It's something that myself and my team thinks a lot about. I just think feeling like you're empowered enough to use it in your own job or to help your company start to enable it. It's amazing when you start to see the changes it can make, and it changes the whole way that you just build anything in your company. It even changes the way you make your grocery list, because once you start using it, it's like how we all changed when we adopted the internet. Like, we kind of stopped going to the post office for most things because of email. That's what AI is going to be like in 10 to 20 years. And then just, if you're going to build with AI, especially the founders, also we work with pharmaceuticals. If people like Pfizer, I know some of them were in the room today, please like partner together, because it is so exciting when you see, well, like an endometriosis startup and a Pfizer can do, it's freeing for women, and it will help us with that data gap. So make the partnerships that allow you to buy and build AI together, because we don't all need to build it. We don't all need to buy it. It's finding that right mix. And I think that's actually the only learning curve to AI. Should you buy it or build, and who do you partner with? That's really what it's about.
Maybe it's invest in it. At Renegade Global Ventures, we are democratizing access to deal flow, but also the flow of capital by creating special purpose vehicles, right? So these are smaller check sizes that women are writing together, pulling it together, and investing alongside, and we've done even private equity deals, but you start to group that volume together, and there's a lot of leverage. So you may be, looking at an opportunity where you really believe in it and you want to get behind it. There are different ways. You don't necessarily have to write, a 7-figure check or even a 6-figure check. So know that the game is changing. It's all about creating new playbooks and models that can increase, our time, our health, and our wealth, hopefully for women. And we hope to continue the conversation for sure.
Be around.
Any final, if you look back at the day you were kind of launching Ema, and if you could go back to yourself when you decided to press go, what would you say to yourself knowing what you know now?
That's a really good question. I think I'd probably hold my own hand and say, like, you just have to ride the emotional waves as a startup founder. You really do. And it's so easy to wake up every day when you know that you're changing the world. And I know that sounds so silly and like it's a weird thing to say, but truly, like, Ema is the greatest gift of my life. And it's, okay, my kids and my husband are great too. But so maybe she's the second greatest gift of my life. But really, it's I'm just so excited that you all are sitting here, because you're obviously change makers in the space, and we need more women to build AI for women, because AI can be biased and it has its issues, so we want people building it for women that have vaginas.
Yes, you have to get in the game, right, to have a voice, so make sure we're playing full out. And thank you. It's an honor to talk about this subject matter. Obviously, incredible to be here with an expert in Amanda, and thank you for showing up for yourselves today. And we appreciate you.